Hello and welcome. If IRCC ever needed to be forgiven, I think it has to be today. Come on, you have to accept it. You have to agree with me, right? I mean, for all the things that we have been so upset with IRCC, we've been so frustrated with everything that's been happening. Just today, this one time, I think we have to sort of say kudos to IRCC. Job well done. Well, I'm talking about the latest express entry draw, which happened today. Spring surprise. I mean, I was expecting much worse since the spring started, and I was like, every single day, I was like, okay, today is going to be something which we don't want to happen anytime soon. But what happened today was something much more pleasant and unexpected for sure, because IRCC went ahead and conducted another express entry draw, bang, on a Thursday, and another big draw, 7,000 invitations, back-to-back, mega big draw, tied in place with the largest all-program draw. So excited with that when I saw the draw this afternoon. And let's quickly get on with this one before we lose the track and storyline. Well, this was the express entry surprise draw. I always get very excited when I see this draw because, hey, it is very exciting, right? So CRS of 484, invitations issued 7,000, draw number 244. Today is the 23rd of March. This is the 8th consecutive draw, or rather not consecutive, but 8th draw of 2023. This was an all program draw, which basically means all programs in an express entry were included in this draw. The tiebreaker applied to scores of 484. Tiebreaker applies to the profiles that were created after the 19th of May, 12:27:59 UTC. If your score was 484, you created your profile after this date, you were not included in this draw. This is the official page announcement. Rounds of invitations, 244 series, March 23rd, 7,000 amazing invitations issued, 484, incredible drop. And of course, why not? Like, very quickly, we will go through the pool breakdown. And excuse me. You know what, guys? I want you to hang around a bit because at the end of this slide presentation, I have a small fun fact. And you'll be very interested in seeing those numbers. So stick around while we still talk about these pool breakdowns. Now, 601 to 1,200, which basically is the people who have received nominations, 310. 501 to 600 are the people who are either bilingual, have a master's degree in Canada and also high scores otherwise, or also have a job offer. Those were 534, a big drop in the numbers. As you can see, now it is becoming more and more apparent and more obvious that that number is coming down. But then also you have to keep in mind, this pool breakdown is only 7 days later than the previous one. So you're not seeing much of a difference there. And 491 to 500, since the previous pool had already been cleared out, only 444. So total of 1,288 profiles were added into the pool with scores of 491 and above, which is not bad, 1,288. But let's look where the more crucial things matter, right? 481 to 490. Now, we have always been on a tenterhooks. We thought IRCC has some sort of fancy towards 490s. They tend to stick to 490s. Looks like IRCC has been listening a lot to these kind of comments because they've come back and quashed that completely, bringing the score right down to 484 for a change. I mean, we've been dying to see 480s, right? So finally that has come through. Now, 5,712 profiles were cleared between 481 and 490. That was the number of profiles that have been cleared. Why? Because it's simple mathematics. If you total 7,000 minus 1,288, leaves you with 5,712. Out of 12,000 profiles, 5,712 have been cleared. Score is at 484, which basically tells you that the scores below 484, there are roughly 6,000 plus profiles sitting there. But we'll talk more about that. But this gives you a bit of a brief snapshot of how the pool is looking like. This was the pool breakdown as of 15th of March, a week earlier. As you can see, that the profile between 481 and 490 at that point of time were 12,183. 180 profiles have moved. Now, did the profiles become ineligible? Did they expire? Or did these profiles move upwards and gain additional points? Well, we will never know. But that number from 12,183 to have dropped this week to 12,001 tells you that those 180 profiles, I mean, which basically means there was no increase in the number. On the contrary, there is a decrease, which is always quite surprising, right? Moving along, basically key analysis points before we go, get into anything else. Remaining number of profiles with 481 plus at this point of time would be 6,289. Simple mathematics. Draw on draw increase with 500 plus profiles. This time it was 844. But keep in mind, this was only 1 week later. If this was 2 weeks, you would have seen about 17 to 1800 profiles. Excuse me. No, it didn't happen. Sniffling a bit. The next draw estimate, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about that as well. In my opinion, I expect the next draw, whenever that happens, may not be with 7,000, because at some point of time, IRCC will have to come back to the reality of how many ITAs can be issued. But if they do manage to come back with another draw of 7,000, that would be spectacular. You can then see maybe 470s touching, though I will be a bit skeptical about that one. I don't think so, because 6,289 profiles are still in the pool. Obviously, if there is another week later, few hundreds, some thousand profile would get added. So even if they do a 7,000 kind of a draw, your scores will still be in the range of 481, 480. Won't go into 470s just about yet. But that is provided they conduct a draw of that big size next week. I am a bit skeptical. I'll tell you why about that. But if they are to conduct a draw, I'm not sure if it happens next week or not, but that would be 3,500 ITAs. That is what I am thinking more realistically, depending how many invitations have already been issued. CRS score would then be in the range of 481 to 483. Again, I'm a bit on the conservative side. Again, sniffles. No. The drop below 480 now, that is where a lot of anticipation is going to be. I am thinking late April or May 2023. If everything continues the way things are, that is where we are looking at. Okay. Future trends. Now, the future trend ITAs issued in 2023 already are 30,559. In my opinion, I'm expecting IRCC is going to issue roughly 70,000 invitations this year. Candidates in the express entry pool as of right now are not 245,000. That number is different. I'm not sure why it shows that number. Let me quickly take a look and tell you what that number should be. That number should have been 240,146. Now that's great. I'm not sure why, but there is a difference of 5,000 reduction. So it hasn't gone up. The current number is 240,000. This 245 is of last week. So 5,000 profiles less in express entry. I'm not sure it's something to worry about, something to feel happy about, but less number of people are now creating express entry profiles. Maybe they're getting scared with my videos that I've been putting up, right? Probably. The number of draws that I still expect in this year now, remaining number of draws, about 18 approximately. Bill C-19 implementation is later this year. And why am I saying later this year? You may want to watch this video clip. I have it for you. Very interesting. Take a look at this one.
Comes to the mandate letter commitments that I have, there's two very specific projects that we're doing some policy work on now. We don't have an announcement in the next few weeks because we have a lot of work left to do to develop these programs. But I've been tasked by the Prime Minister to create a pathway to permanent residency for international students and for temporary foreign workers. Yeah. One of the things that we need to be careful about, though, is because there's been such growth in the international student program, for example, we now have more international students in Canada in a given year than we have spaces for permanent residents in our entire immigration levels plan. So it won't be the case that every single person who comes here temporarily will have an opportunity for a TR to PR like we did during the pandemic. But we're working now to develop a tool to figure out how we can identify those students or temporary workers who are likely to qualify for permanent residency. This will also require us to consider a re-examination of how we determine who will be admitted on a temporary basis in the first place. because we keep running into this scenario where someone's told, you can't come to Canada because we don't believe you're likely to go home, when in fact we're working to create a pathway to permanent residency for some of the world's best and brightest students and talented workers that we want to convert to permanent residency. So the work is underway. It's actually the subject of our strategic immigration review, which is going on right now with sessions right across Canada to help take feedback from communities and for people who practice immigration law or as consultants or stakeholders in the business community to understand how we can develop the right tool. Although I know there's a lot of people who are anxious to see a new pathway immediately, it's more important to me that we establish a new pathway that will stand the test of time. Because once we make a change to create a pathway for temporary residents like students and workers, I want this to be in place on a permanent basis going forward.
This is how it happens to me every single time when I mute my microphone. All right, so you heard it from the horse's mouth, and he is referring to the fact that the work is still in progress. And by work still being in progress, he's referring to the tool Bill C-19. Now, Bill C-19 implementation work being in progress, and there is still a few weeks. Now, this few weeks always leaves us on a bit of a tenterhook, which basically means could be a few months, as he's already said it in another media release somewhere that later this year is when he's anticipating Bill C-19 to be implemented. Whew, that's such a sigh of relief, right? Because so many of us have been on tenterhook thinking when this Bill C-19 will come into place. Some sort of a nightmarish feeling to this Bill C-19. But he is also talking about the fact that there will not be enough spots for all the international students and foreign workers, because obviously there are more international students and foreign workers, less slots. So not everybody will find a slot. I've already posted a video last night, if I'm not sure if you've seen that, stating how difficult PR is going to be. But the reason why I showed you that video clip is more to do with the fact of Bill C-19 implementation being looked at sometimes later this year. What that basically means for all of us who are looking at express entry is that the draws should hopefully continue the way they are. If not with 7,000 invitations, I hope they are consistent with at least 3,500 kind of invitations so that we can see a gradual drop in the scores. And that would be so much of a relief rather than seeing those high crazy scores of 500 plus. So that is one thing that I wanted to share with you. And as we move on, I promised you a fun fact, but before we get to the fun fact, let me talk to you about something else. Now, because so many of you have received these invitations now, 7,000 last week, 7,000 today, almost 14,000, and there were so many other invitations people were getting. There have been a lot of people who have been asking so many questions, sometimes which I think are basic, but what may be basic for me may not be basic for you, because hey, I'm doing it on a daily basis, you are not. It's probably a once in a lifetime kind of an opportunity. So please be careful with your express entry applications. Congratulations if you've received an ITA. But what we have done is at Team Ask Kubeir, my team, we have prepared a masterclass for you. This is going to be in person, which basically means as in a group setting, our licensed consultants, immigration consultants will take you step by step how to submit an application, what to do with your documentation, what you need to provide, what you don't need to provide. This is going to be happening on the 26th of March, 2023, which is Sunday, around the corner. Fee is only $299. Obviously, you got to cover up the costs, right? But we only have very few slots. It's on the 26th of March, 2 p.m. from our office. So if you wish to take up on this opportunity, then please do. The website is this. You can use this website, register for it if you have received an ITA, and I can promise you this would be such a stress buster. Then you will know exactly what you need to do with your application one single time, all questions answered during that particular session. So that's basically something that you can look forward to in terms of handling your application. Always a good idea, handle your application. You will be the best person, you'll be the most careful person. But let's get on to this. So I promised you a fun fact, and let's get to that one. And this is a little bit of research that I did. I may have missed a number or two, but let's take a look at this. Very interesting, right? There has been only one triple back-to-back draw in the history of Canadian express entry Canadian Immigration and Express Entry. And that was in 2017 when they held three consecutive back-to-back draws. So back-to-back draw basically means, because the frequency of an express entry draw is roughly 2 weeks, though there is no hard and fast rule when they will conduct the draws, but roughly 2 weeks is what we consider as a regular consistency. But in 2017, they had three back-to-back draws, which basically means they held a draw every single week. 5th of April, 12th of April, 19th of April. So 3 weeks consecutively they held draws. Only once this has happened. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because we are now on the cusp of something like that. Will it happen? Will it not happen? That is something which we'll have to see. But what happened in this particular set time is that the number of ITAs that were issued were on an average 3,800. There was a gap of 15 days, after which the next draw happened on the 4th of May. The CRS score on the 19th of April, finally it was there. Thank you. So the CRS score went up from 415, which was on the 19th of April, up to 435 when the draw happened on the 4th of May. Similarly, there was a back-to-back draw on the 23rd and 30th of January 2019. ITAs issued on an average were 3,500. There was a gap of 20 days before which they resumed the draws. And then the next draw happened on the 20th of February. Scores went up from 438 to 457. That was 2019. Again, in the same year, back-to-back draw happened on December 11th and December 19th to 2019 again. ITAs issued average 3,200. There was a gap of 20 days for the next draw. And the next draw was on the 8th of Jan when the CRS score went up from 469 to 473. Not a lot of difference there. Again, another back-to-back draw, this time in the year 2020. November 18 and then November 25. ITAs issued on an average were 5,000. Actually, that was a time when they were consistently issuing 5,000 invitations. There was a gap of 14 days before the next draw, which was on the 9th of December. CRS stayed from 469 to 469. So there was no increase in the CRS at all. On the contrary, the draw that happened after the 9th of December, which was on the 23rd of December, was the lowest that it went down to over the last few years that we have seen, 468. That was the last draw, after which we saw the long gap of a year and a half when the express entry draws did not happen. But more interestingly, another back-to-back draw has happened in 2023, which was only in the just recently in the month of January. They held a draw on the 11th of January and again on the 18th of January. Now, obviously, they held a back-to-back draw because before this, there was a big pause in the draws after the 23rd of November when they had changed for the tier system. This time, the number of invitations issued were 5,500 on an average for each of the draws. The gap of 14 days before the next draw, which happened on the February 2nd. But this time, on the 2nd of February, the draw was Federal Skilled Worker Program, which I have no clue why they held. I mean, I couldn't understand why it was a FSW draw. The CRS, for a change, for the first time ever, went down from 490 to 489. So have you seen that trend from 415 to 435 in the first time, 438 to 457 the second time? I mean, the scores were going up, but gradually the difference in the scores going up reduced, and eventually in the last back-to-back draw, the scores actually dropped, which is absolutely fantabulous. I mean, isn't this a great piece of fun fact? Sometimes it's always nice to sort of go back into the historical data and figure out what all has happened, which seems to probably set some precedents, because such kind of precedents is always welcome. When the scores are dropping, back-to-back draws are happening, more people are getting invited, because, hey, look at it like this way. Until a week back, people in 480s were already they were already freaking out. They were already panicking whether they would even get invited, whether there is even a chance. Already, people who have been submitting their applications in Ontario after the tech draw and health draw are thinking, why did we even spend 1,500 over there? Or some of you who are still in the process of applying to Ontario, obviously are not going to do that because now you have received your ITA. Hey, 484 is a great score. Now, obviously, there are so many questions who are asking what's happening with 470, what's happening with 460, when will the score drop? First of all, I don't know when the scores will drop, because forget me, I don't think anybody out there will know what will happen. Will the draw happen next week? That is the most important question. If it happens next week, this would be, as I said, there is a precedence there. It's happened before in 2017. It was phenomenal because that was the time after the month of April, in the month of May, 31st of May 2017, the best day ever in express entry, because the scores went right down to 413, the lowest ever for all program draw. Okay, are we going to see a repeat? I'm not saying repeat in terms of the lowest draw, but are we going to see a repeat of a consecutive back-to-back, triple back-to-back draw? That would be absolutely fantabulous if it happens. But we'll have to wait and see, because obviously, as I said, nobody out there can say if it's going to happen or not. If it doesn't happen, then obviously we are looking at a draw to happen, let's say when? 5th of April. That would, in my opinion, that is more realistic if you look at it this way, because by conducting two back-to-back draws, IRCC has pretty much taken away all the pause that they had done, and they've pretty much balanced out that. So in that aspect, you would say, okay, IRCC, job well done. At least you have cleared out 14,000 people from the pool, and now we are already at 484. From here on, hopefully the scores should stay more reasonable than otherwise. But also you have to keep in mind the number of profiles that are getting added. The more profiles that get added, the more pressure it puts on the pool, and therefore the amount of score that gets reduced. That's where you gotta keep your eyes on. Meanwhile, you also heard from the horse's mouth, and I'm referring to the fact that he also agrees that the number of international students, the number of foreign workers who are inside Canada, they do not have enough spots for them, which basically means as we move forward into this year, and once Bill C-19 obviously does come into play, we do not know when that comes into play, things are definitely going to get difficult, though the expectation is that the express entry regular draws will continue. It's just that the number of invitations will get split between the regular express entry draws and the Bill C-19 draws. So we just need to wait and see and watch how that plays out. At this point of time, obviously a lot of it is speculation, because we don't know how exactly it will play out, how many categories they would have, what would be the distribution of those categories. Another one thing which again Sean Fraser was referring to, and that was the mandate letter. In his mandate letter, he is expected to make a pathway for the international students and foreign workers. And with that being said, a lot of advantage will go down to the international students and foreign workers who are currently in Canada. But I see that advantage coming through the way of Bill C-19, not through another TR to PR, because there is going to be no TR to PR program. So that is how the whole process would, or rather how the whole scene would look like in terms of express entry and Canadian immigration. If you do have opportunities to apply for PNPs, if you have opportunities to apply for job offers, take it. If you are still on the fence with French, then I'm again telling you, French will always give you advantage. Don't let that one go. That's all basically what I have for you for today. I hope you liked today's video. If you do, please boop on the like button. One more time, that's the link, askkubeir.blog/masterclass. If you wish to sign up for the masterclass, which will be in person on the 26th of March, which is Sunday, will be taken care of by our licensed consultant. Will take you step by step as to how you need to submit your express entry application after you have received your ITA, how to format your documents, what kind of documents. They will even review one document, I think, and also gives you an option for some follow-up email. All of this in one single package. I think it will make for a good experience. If you're up for it, it will be in person from our office in North York. That's all basically what I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining in. Once again, congratulations to everybody who has received their invitation. I'm sure this is such a huge relief, golden opportunity. Don't let it pass. Take care, good night, and I shall see you next time.